let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs now.
Sure.
All right. They're in a situation, not necessarily this year, but over the next couple of years. Okay. Because let's go through their cap sheet real quick.
Okay.
Auston Matthews only has 2 years left on his deal before he's an unrestricted free agent. William Nylander, same thing. John Tavares, 3 years left on his deal. Mitch Marner, 3 years left on his deal. So, we all like to think about the Leafs as this young, hot shot team on the rise, but this could be over before we even know it. As dark as that sounds.
Yeah, it could be a rebuild podcast in a couple of years.
This could be over in a hurry. I know it sounds extremely negative and dark and sick and twisted to say that, but man, they don't have a lot of time. Let's just say that. The window is closing and they got to act on it quickly. So let's go through a list of players, Lepore.
Okay.
And this game is called, will this player be a Toronto Maple Leaf within the next 2 years?
Okay. Like at the 2-year mark, like Matthews free agency.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're setting the bar essentially at the Matthews free agency, which is 2 years from now.
That summer. Okay.
So let's start with Auston Matthews. Will he be a Leaf in 2 years?
I think he will. I think a lot of people, we're naturally negative in Toronto, fans and media, but I think Matthews, I think he likes being famous there. I said it. You won't be more famous than being a star of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have a competitive team within reason. They're going to pay him what he deserves. Almost like, why wouldn't he? I think is the way to put it. And I think this is a bigger talking point with Matthews. I think we'll know right away. I think if you're him, and I always say I hate to get inside these guys' heads, but if you're him, you want that contract signed as fast as it can be signed, because you do not want to have to answer questions about that contract day in, day out. And if you are planning on staying, you don't want that around the team. You don't want that whole thing around the team. So I think it's going to happen. If it happens, I think it's going to happen quickly, where, wow, it's out the window. It's done. We don't have to worry about it. And as far as the number goes, and now we're kind of going off the rails, or I'm going off the rails. I think as far as the number for Matthews goes, it's going to be one thing or the other. It's going to be something very, very reasonable. I'm not saying he's going to take a huge pay cut to be a Maple Leaf, but it's going to be something that may be lower than we're expecting. Like, people are already saying it's going to be $15 million. He's going to be the highest paid player in the league. And we'll see what the cap's at and all that stuff and how the percentages work. But I think it's going to be either a very fair deal or he's gone. Because if he does want to stay, what other reason would he want to stay other than, okay, I want to win here? He can get more money somewhere else. One team will give him the max, probably. American player, most goals in the league. So I think we're going to know quickly with Matthews, and he's going to be captain eventually. If he signs, I think that's part of it too. Like, he'll be captain eventually. So to answer the question in one word, I will say yes. In 2 years, Auston Matthews will be a Toronto Maple Leaf. What do you think, Bruno?
I agree. I think he's going to stay with the Leafs. I've had conversations with people about this. Some are very negative, where they think he's out the door because the Leafs can't get out of the first round. Yeah. Some are very positive and say a lot of the same things that you just said, being like, why would he want to leave an organization? It's a first-class organization. And you hear it from former players, guys that played for the Leafs. Like, they talk about how first-class this organization is, and the difference between playing for the Leafs and playing for another team. And it's still obviously a really good team, and he is the heart and soul of this team. I think he's going to be back. I think he enjoys playing here. I think he enjoys the fame that comes along with it. Like you said, now he's really good friends with Justin Bieber. And, it's hard to be the face of a league if you play for, I don't know, name the team, Lepore.
Well, people keep saying that the whole thing with Bieber on the connection, or maybe because they're kind of an up and coming team, is LA. The new one's like, oh, he's going to go play for the Kings. And then, oh, he's friends with Bieber, LA, whatever. Auston Matthews is a nobody in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And
his brand goes down. And you mentioned the money. We talk about the money. His total earnings will go down if he leaves, regardless. Oh, he makes $2 or $3 million more, or whatever he makes more in contract. the endorsements, all that shit, branding, his cards, his jersey sales, everything goes down.
Lepore, people don't even care about like Mookie Betts in LA, and he's like one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, because
like,
see Brutus is worth $100 million walking by you every day, or $500 million.
Like in LA with all the stars that are there, and especially in basketball, like it's mostly, I would say, a basketball town when it comes to sports, when it comes to like professional sports. And sure, like you could even say, I mean, even if you talk about like the football teams as well, like, I mean, talk about the Rams, like, does anyone really care about Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp?
Well, that was the whole thing. When they played the 49ers, the stadium was all 49ers fans. Like, think of that for an NFC championship game. It was all red because like the Rams, like whatever, like nobody really cares there.
So yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult for Auston Matthews to, number one, be the face of the league. And I get it. Wayne Gretzky played for the LA Kings, but if he goes to LA, I don't think you can compare the two. Yeah, being the star of the LA Kings and being the star of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, he's not Gretzky. Or even for that matter, when Beckham went, like Matthews isn't the brand that David Beckham is. So.
Exactly. So yeah, to answer it very quickly, I think he's going to be back. And you could say, oh, it's just wishful thinking from you guys. The Leafs suck. They're going to lose in the first round the next 2 years. Matthews is out the door. Whatever, chirp us if you want. I just find it very hard to believe. And another thing you mentioned, Lepore, he's going to be the captain at some point. I just find it hard to believe he's going to leave this situation, especially if Mitch Marner is still here, because Marner has done a lot of great things for Matthews, and he's elevated him in a way to becoming the goal scorer that he is, even though he's already a phenomenal goal scorer in his own right. But playing with Marner, it brings out even more magic. And let's turn our attention now to Marner, Lepore, who has 3 years left on his deal. Is he going to be here in 2 years?
I think it would be wrong for me to argue that Matthews will be here and Marner will not, because I'm sure they talk, their agents talk. To me, it's kind of like a package deal. So the fact that I think Matthews will stay, I think Marner would stay as well. But that's also to say, if Matthews was to leave, I don't necessarily think that Marner would leave. Right. And then who knows? And it's a weird thing with hockey and sports in general. When they were discussing the captain and the captaincy with Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, obviously Tavares' name was in the mix. Riley's name was in the mix. Matthews' name was front and center. And no one really mentioned Marner. And call me whatever, but it's that like unconscious bias thing of, and I'll say it, it's because he's kind of small. And he was a teenager, but he looked like a teenager. So it's like, oh no, you got to be a big burly guy to wear the C. So who knows? Maybe in 2 years we're sitting here and Matthews is gone and Marner's the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto boy, and he's leading the way. But I think it's a package deal. I think they're both staying.
I think so too. Marner's a GTA boy. We know how much he bleeds blue and white. I find it very difficult to believe that either of those two guys is leaving because, again, I don't think it really comes down to the money. Like, really, you're going to go chase money with like, how much more can you possibly make? Yeah, they're going to be the two of the highest paid players in the league, regardless. That's the thing. It's like, for the people who think this is about money, I just find that ridiculous, especially in hockey, because, in other sports, it's a little bit different where you have like, these teams that can't afford certain players. Guys can, like, for example, like Tyreek Hill in football,
right?
Like the Chiefs, he's one of the best receivers in football, but the Chiefs are like, we still have Patrick Mahomes. Like, we can't really afford this guy. And Tyreek Hill's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about winning another Super Bowl. I'm going to go out and sign a massive contract.
Yeah, because the difference is like $50 million in football.
Same thing with Devontae Adams, right? Yeah. Signing his massive deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. I just think it's different even in baseball, we see it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to go out and try to make $300 to $400 million. Like Marcus Semien for the Jays, right? Finished he finished third in MVP voting last season and just goes out and says, I don't care where I play. I'm going to go sign with the Texas Rangers for $175 million. Whereas in hockey, I don't think it's the same because these guys just don't make as much money compared to these other sports. It's hard to go out and chase the money. I'm not saying guys don't chase the money and it's not possible. I just don't view it in the same light as I do Major League Baseball or the NFL or even the NBA for that matter. Like, no matter where Matthews and Marner go, they're going to make the exact same money.
I think too, there's also the matter in hockey because the money's not there's two aspects here because the money as far as contracts go is not as big. And also because there's a huge gap in the market. It's like in football, Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter who he plays for. He would have an Oakley deal. He'd be everywhere. It doesn't matter. In hockey, markets matter. And the gap of whatever they would make, again, if it is about money playing somewhere else, they would lose that money. I mean, if you want to have some fun, go on Marner's Instagram. PlayStation, Red Bull, Range Rover, whatever cologne, whatever insurance company, he's making dough off that stuff. Dough. So because of playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's that bump up. So there's that aspect of it too, that you're turning your back on that money. The thing is too, we're talking about these contracts and all that. The Leafs pay their money up front. Like anyone who's taken grade 9 economics knows that that's really, really powerful. If someone offered me a $50 million deal and I got $35 million up front, or a $60 million deal where I got $10 million a year for 6 years, I take the one with the money up front. And like the Leafs can do that. And some people don't think they should be allowed to do that. And that's a whole other conversation, but they can. So, I mean, there too. Anyways, Matthews and Marner are saying they're retiring as Maple Leafs, names and numbers in the rafters.
Yeah,
move on.
They're going to be back 100%. Their jerseys will be in the rafters one day. We're speaking it into existence, Lepore.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. All right, just to go through some of these a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Let's lump these two together. Tavares and Nylander.
Together.
Are they going to be back? I mean, not that they're like a package deal, but will they be back? Will they be Leafs in 2 years?
So they both have 3 years left on their deals.
Nylander only has 2 years left.
Oh, right.
And Tavares has 3 years left.
Yeah, it's Nylander and Matthews that are together, and then Tavares and Marner that are together. I will say that Nylander, if I had to guess, if I had to put money on it, I would say he will not be. And I'm not on the camp of trade Nylander. I don't think we should even consider trading Willie Nylander. He's a great player, and I love that player. But he's the guy where I could see, based on the names and bodies we have, he's going to get offered a lot more somewhere else. Like there's a team that is going to make William Nylander, and this is not a shot at Willie, but they're going to make him more important to that team than he is on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I would say
that.
Yeah, like I'm assuming this team's competitive in the next 2 years. I would say Willie walks. He's one that walks in free agency.
Yeah, just based on his contract right now. Now, I do think it depends on how he performs over these next couple of years, because he hasn't had like that huge breakout season yet. Like I've always thought that Nylander has the potential to score like anywhere between 80 to 100 points. Like I truly believe that, like based on his skill level, based on what I've seen this guy do on the international stage.
Yeah.
Like this is a dude that I think could have like a 90-point season.
For sure.
Like I really do. And maybe he can do that where he's the main guy on a team, but I don't know. I don't think he's necessarily wired to be like the 1A guy on a championship team. Like, I don't think could you win a Stanley Cup with William Nylander as your best player?
No,
probably not.
Like he'd fit in well with Carolina.
You know what? He actually would be a good fit on Carolina.
Yeah.
He would immediately be like one of their top 2 offensive guys.
But just in the way that they're a team of like just 1Bs. You know what I mean? So it's that's fit right in, and a coach would love him. So,
but yeah, he's a type of player like, we talked about Marner and Matthews, like they're just elite players. They're going to get the same deal anywhere. Whereas with Nylander, he's only making 6.9. He could go somewhere for 8.5. Whereas maybe the Leafs just don't have the ability to pay him that. So I agree. He's a guy that maybe in 2 years, you know what, Lepore? I'm going to say he's back too.
What?
I'm going to say Nylander's here in 2 years.
Wow. Well. Bruno's just riding it out. Okay.
Matthews, Marner, and Nylander all going to be here in 2 years.
Well, then I think I know where you're going with the next one. Yeah. We can't fit all these guys.
Yeah. You want me to start off with JT?
Well, you can start with JT. I'm going to go get a drink. I'll be back. I'll be back in an hour.
Okay. I'll say JT's not going to be here in 2 years. And I know he has 3 years left on his deal and he has a no movement clause, but this dude is just simply not worth $11 million. He is declining every year. I know he was a point a game player last year and he finished that series against the Lightning very strong. He scored what would have been a great goal in Game 7 before that phantom call on Justin Hall. I get it. But man, that contract is going to be an anchor, in my opinion, at least over the next few seasons here. And it might be impossible to move, honestly. But I think if they're really going to shake up this team, you got to find a way. And I mean, it really, even like buying him out doesn't make a lot of sense, because like, you're not really saving any money.
You don't need to buy him out. You can trade Tavares. Someone will. Yeah, we see these guys getting picked up. You can take Tavares.
John Tavares, you would think.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be the guy. And again, he has a no movement clause, so it's going to be difficult to do. But I will say that Tavares is not here in 2 years.
It's tough for me to like picture them trading. I mean, they traded Wendell, but for Mats. It's tough for me to picture them like trading JT, like the biggest free agency signing the organization's ever had, the captain. I go back and forth because for that reason, I say, no, he'll be here. But then I think about it and I'm like, okay, we're starting to see that regression. Where will it be at the end of next year? Where will it be at the end of the year after that? So this year will tell a lot. If I had to bet, in 2 years, I think the best chance is him just in free agency, or he resigns for like the $1 million a year type thing to finish his career in Toronto, and then Matthews takes the C. But trading him, he's gone in 2 years. I can't see it. I'll disagree with you on that one. I mean, and I'm not saying that's what I want to happen, because I think if we could free up $11 million, and I'd take the freedom of $11 million extra on the cap and losing John Tavares, but I just don't see it happening in the next 2 years. I think if I could guess what's going to happen, he's going to ride out the 3 years, and especially that third year, as much as it'll suck to have to listen to the negativity, and then he'll do the Toronto hometown boy signing when he's done, and then the C comes off his jersey.
That's totally fair. I mean, if you were to look at betting lines for this, the favorite would be John Tavares being here for the length of his contract.
Yeah, probably.
And it would be plus money to say that he's going to be gone in 2 years, but who knows? You never know what's going to happen. I wouldn't put it past Dubas to just drop a bombshell on all of us. Like, who knows, man? I really do think Dubas has it in him to make like a big time trade, and who knows? I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens this offseason. But if you're going to bet, the favorite would be John Tavares being here in 2 years. Lepore, quickly with these D-men. Jake Muzzin and TJ Brody, both 2 years left on their contracts. Will they be here in 2 years?
So will they resign, or will they be gone before the end of their deals? I think Muzzin's gone, either trade or LTIR. I think Brody finishes his deal, at least. I mean, you have to have some veteran leadership and stability back there, and that's what he provides. And can we actually say Brody's game's regressed at all?
I think so. Brody's awesome.
Yeah, I'd say Brody. Yeah, I'd say Brody. I have a Brody jersey, random one. I like it. I like being the random guy. I'll say Brody, yes. Muzzin, no. I think that's kind of would be everyone's take.
Yeah, I'm right there with you as well. I have no for Jake Muzzin, yes for TJ Brody. With Muzzin, that's another situation where he's in decline as well. That's a guy that the Leafs could look to move this offseason, honestly.
Yeah.
I still like what he provides. Like when he's healthy, we even saw it in the playoffs against Tampa. Like I thought he played well.
Honestly, he played very well
against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But TJ Brody, to me, like he is just so good. He is probably the most underrated player on this Leafs team.
Love him,
in my opinion. So I think he's going to be back for sure. How about the goalies, Lepore? Muzzin and Campbell, my God. Mrazek and Campbell. Are they going to be here in 2 years? I mean, Campbell might be out the door in the next, who knows, couple of weeks here. But what do you think?
I think they're both gone. I think the Leafs are working on something with a goalie. Like names have come up for someone like Young with a high ceiling, upside. We talked about this last week, but there was some buzz that Campbell and the Leafs were progressing with talks, but I still think Dubas is too smart for it. Like, unless it's a deal he can't pass up on Campbell, I think Campbell's moving on. And as far as Mrazek goes, now this one you can call wishful thinking, but I think there's no way he's back. No chance at all. Let alone, I don't think he's back next year, let alone 2 years from now.
Yeah, with Mrazek, I think the Leafs are going to do everything in their power to get rid of that contract this offseason. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to Campbell, I will say that he is going to be back.
Oh,
I think they're
okay.
going to find a way to re-sign him and bring him back. And, maybe you could say, Bruno, like, you're crazy because there's no way this team is going to win a Stanley Cup with Jack Campbell as its starting goalie. But honestly, I think you could do a lot worse than having Jack Campbell as your starting goalie. I will say he's back. And you know what? Maybe it ends up being in a platoon or a backup situation. I don't know. It's
I don't
it's
know.
hard because honestly, Lepore, I'm finding it hard to believe that there's a team out there that is going to give Jack Campbell the bag. That's the way that I'm viewing this. Like, I don't see a team out there that's going to be like, here, Jack Campbell, we're giving you 5 years, $6 million a year at the age of 31 to be our starting goalie for the next 5 years. So I'm going to say Campbell's back.
Sure.
Lepore,
Okay.
before we end this podcast, front office, Shanahan, Dubas, and then obviously the head coach, Sheldon Keefe. Will they be back in
I'll
2
be
years?
quick with this one. I think they're all still here. And I think sometimes as Leaf fans and even people who aren't Leafs fans, when they look at this organization, you sometimes don't realize what you have. And when I say that, I mean comparatively to what you've had in the past. How this organization is looked at since Shanahan got there, since Dubas became GM, nobody wanted to play in Toronto, period. Even the GTA guys did not want to play in Toronto until their careers were done, just so they could, ride into the sunset as Maple Leafs and then play in golf tournaments and sign autographs for the rest of their life. This is a place now where it seems people want to play. The branding of the Toronto Maple Leafs and growth has skyrocketed. There's a lot of positives. And even people say, oh, first round exits. If you look at the total revenues and profits, and if we could attach a total value to the Toronto Maple Leafs and how much it's increased since Shanahan took charge, it's a big number. It's a big, big number. And people may laugh at this. Think of the Justin Bieber jersey thing. Think of that. Think of the next gen game stuff, all
How
that
much
stuff.
revenue that's brought in.
Revenue and also culture, like how the organization like presents itself. That's big, big stuff, man. So just say, oh, they're gonna fire these guys. Like, no, they can't just get rid of them after they've seen this kind of growth. I mean, on the ice, it is what it is. They're putting together a competitive team, putting together a 115 point team and a team that has only seen growth in its value and its brand. It's tough to fight. It's tough to fire them. So I'll say, yeah, they're all still here.
I think they're all going to be here in 2 years as well. I agree with everything you said about Brendan Shanahan. And then when I think about Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe, I think it's 100% clear now that as long as Kyle Dubas is the general manager of this team, he's probably not going to fire Sheldon Keefe because he easily could have done it this offseason. Barry Trotz still floating out there. Like, you had names like Peter DeBoer. There were some names out there, some good coaches. And I know we had a conversation about recycling the same coaches, but there were some legit head coaches out there that could have been brought in, and he's sticking with his guy, Sheldon Keefe. So I think all three of those guys will be here in 2 years. And hopefully the Leafs don't keep losing in the first round of the playoffs and driving all of us absolutely insane.